Deep beneath the frantic, soot-stained streets of a sprawling metropolis lies a secret that defies the laws of architecture and logic. The repository of the forgotten is an impossibly vast, steampunk-esque warehouse that stretches into a horizon of copper pipes and dim amber light. Thousands of towering mahogany shelves reach toward a vaulted ceiling lost in shadow, each groaning under the weight of a billion discarded memories. It is a cathedral of the misplaced, where the air smells of old paper, ozone, and a hint of cedar. This isn't just a basement, it is the true, beating heart of the world's lost and found department. Here, the objects that slipped through the cracks of human life finally find a home, waiting in a silent, golden-hued purgatory for a chance to be remembered once more. The silence of the warehouse is deceptive, for the items gathered here are far from inanimate. As the dust settles, a forlorn teddy bear with a missing button eye lets out a long velvet sigh, shifting its stuffing to get comfortable on a cold shelf. Nearby, a wise old pocket watch, its brass casing etched with intricate filigree, ticks with a steady, knowing rhythm that sounds suspiciously like a heartbeat. On a lower rack, a pair of mismatched gloves, one leather, one knit, bickers good-naturedly about whose owner was more prone to clumsiness, their fingers gesturing wildly in the air. This is a living ecosystem of the abandoned, a place where personality is forged from the love once given to them by people in the world above. High above this magical cavern, in the sterile light of the city's official municipal building, we meet Percy Pumble. Percy is a meticulously organized, somewhat anxious intern whose very existence is defined by the rigid boundaries of his desk. His workspace is a shrine to neatness, featuring a phalanx of sharpened pencils and a series of color-coded binders that would make a librarian weep with joy. He lives his life by a series of grueling schedules, believing that if he can just categorize the world correctly, nothing will ever truly go wrong. With his spectacles pushed high on his nose and a smudge of ink on his thumb, Percy represents the pinnacle of human order, unaware that he is about to be tossed into a world of absolute chaos. The incident begins during a routine, albeit slightly obsessive, filing task involving a mountain of paperwork from 1984. While searching for a misplaced staple remover, Percy discovers a peculiar, unmarked metal chute tucked away in the back of a dusty, forgotten storage room. It shouldn't have been there, it wasn't on the official floor plan, and that fact alone bothered Percy more than the cobwebs. Curiosity, or perhaps his insatiable, nagging need to organize every dark corner of the office, gets the better of him. As he leans in to inspect the brass hinges, his foot slips on a stray marble. With a frantic yelp that echoes off the cold metal walls, Percy tumbles headfirst into the dark, sliding down a winding copper tube toward the unknown. Percy lands not with a bone-shattering crash, but with a soft, rhythmic thud on a mountain of discarded velvet cushions and tangled spectacles. For a long moment, he simply lies there, watching stars dance behind his eyelids and trying to remember his middle name. When he finally sits up, his jaw drops as he takes in the impossible scale of the repository. The sheer strangeness of the sentient objects surrounding him makes his logical brain itch with disbelief. Teapots are humming lullabies, and a row of umbrellas is stretching like a pride of lions. He is utterly bewildered, his neat, color-coded world replaced by a sprawling mechanical labyrinth that seems to breathe with its own mysterious, clockwork life. His first true encounter in this strange new world is with Reginald, a distinguished but perpetually grumpy black umbrella with a silver swan head handle. Reginald stands tall and stiff, his fabric slightly frayed at the edges from years of neglect. He has seen too many seasons pass from the confines of his shelf to have any faith left in the upper world. To Reginald, humans are nothing more than clumsy, unreliable giants who treat their belongings with the same care one might give a disposable gum wrapper. He eyes Percy with a mixture of disdain and weary boredom, his handle twitching as if he's resisting the urge to poke the intruder. "Another bipedal disaster," he mutters, his voice sounding like the rustle of stiff silk. Moments later, a blur of neon blue streaks across the floor as a surprisingly agile single sock named Sylvie bounces into view. Unlike the cynical Reginald, Sylvie is a fountain of relentless optimism, her heel stitch bobbing like a cheerful chin. She is a brave little explorer who refuses to accept the permanence of being lost, fueled by a singular, burning dream of reuniting with her missing Argyle pair. She circles Percy's boots with a frantic energy, her voice a high-pitched chirp of excitement. To Sylvie, Percy isn't a disaster. He's a miracle, a sign that the world above hasn't forgotten them after all. Her courage is infectious, a bright spark of hope in the dusty, dim-lit corners of the great warehouse. Percy's first instinct is to try and logically explain away the talking footwear and melancholic umbrellas as a localized hallucination brought on by a lack of lunch. He paces in tight circles, muttering about carbon monoxide levels and optical illusions. However, as Sylvie nudges his ankle and Reginald offers a sarcastic critique of his tie, the reality of the situation settles in like a heavy coat. Driven by his deep-seated organizational nature, Percy decides that if he can't leave immediately, he must fix the problem. He views the repository as a massive filing error that needs to be corrected. He pulls out a crumpled notepad, determined to categorize every soul in the room and find them a proper home. Reginald quickly dampens Percy's enthusiasm by explaining the grim reality of the repository's bureaucracy. Getting an item back to the upper world is an ordeal involving ancient, unreliable steam-powered mechanisms that haven't been oiled in a century. Furthermore, the warehouse is patrolled by the guardians of the repository, monstrous, mechanical entities that value cold, stagnant order over the messy emotions of a reunion. They believe that once an object is lost, it belongs to the history of the basement, not the future of the surface. To them, a returned item is a smudge on their perfect record of abandonment. The path to the surface is a gauntlet of gears and gravity that few have ever successfully navigated. Standing in the shadow of a giant gear, Percy adjusts his glasses and proposes a daring plan. He realizes he needs Reginald's knowledge of the terrain and Sylvie's agility, just as they need his human ingenuity and grasp of complex systems. He speaks with a newfound authority, his intern-level anxiety replaced by the focus of a master strategist. Reginald scoffed initially, but something in Percy's stubborn determination, and perhaps a long-buried desire to feel the rain on his canopy once more, causes him to click his handle in agreement. Sylvie, of course, is already doing a celebratory somersault. Together, they form a motley crew, a neat freak human, a bitter brawly, and a lonely sock, united against the odds. Their first major hurdle is the sorting labyrinth, a gargantuan, ever-shifting puzzle of moving shelves and high-speed conveyor belts. It was designed to categorize items with ruthless efficiency, but over the years, it has become a trap for anyone attempting to bypass the system. Rows of books fly through the air like birds, and crates of buttons cascade like waterfalls, creating a chaotic environment where the floor you stand on might vanish at any second. The air is thick with the sound of grinding metal and hissing steam. It is a place of pure kinetic energy, where one wrong step could result in being permanently filed away in the unidentifiable section for the rest of eternity. As the labyrinth shifts around them, Percy's hyper-organized mind finally finds its true calling. While others see chaos, he sees a complex, albeit poorly maintained, algorithm. He begins to notice the rhythmic pulse of the machinery, timing the swings of the massive mechanical arms and predicting the rotation of the floor panels. With his color-coded binders long gone, he uses a piece of chalk to scrawl complex coordinates and flowcharts directly onto the metal floor. He guides Reginald and Sylvie with the precision of a conductor, shouting instructions over the roar of the gears. For the first time in his life, his obsession with detail isn't a quirk, it's a superpower that keeps them all from being crushed. Despite his constant grumbling about the indignity of physical labor, Reginald proves to be an indispensable asset to the team. His long, extendable handle, crafted from sturdy ash wood, becomes a versatile tool for the journey. He hooks onto passing crates to pull the team across gaps and uses his pointed tip to jam gears or flip distant switches that Percy can't reach. Every time he saves them, he follows it up with a sharp remark about how a properly manufactured umbrella shouldn't be used as a crowbar. Yet, there is a new glint in his silver swan-head eye, a flicker of pride. He is no longer a forgotten accessory. He is the structural support holding their mission together. Sylvie's role is perhaps the most dangerous of all, as her small size allows her to enter the very veins of the labyrinth. When a massive pressure valve jams, threatening to stall their progress and alert the Guardians, it is Sylvie who volunteers to venture into the narrow, steam-filled pipes. She navigates the tight, scorching spaces with a bravery that puts Percy's trembling knees to shame, squeezing through gaps no human could fit through. She retrieves a fallen brass key from a churning vat of lost marbles, nearly being swept away in the process. When she emerges, soot-covered but triumphant, she offers a tiny, muffled cheer, proving that even the smallest object can possess the heart of a lion. Their progress is nearly halted by a confrontation with a dust bunny guardian, a towering, shaggy behemoth composed of static electricity and decades of floor sweepings. The creature lunges at them with vacuum-like force, threatening to pull them into its swirling mass of lint and lost hair. Under intense pressure, the trio's bond is forged in fire. Percy distracts the beast with a flurry of paper, Reginald trips it with his hooked handle, and Sylvie delivers a precision strike to its central core. As the Guardian dissipates into a cloud of harmless fluff, the three of them share a breathless moment of silence. The tension between them evaporates, replaced by a deep, unspoken trust that only comes from surviving a shared catastrophe. After hours of grueling navigation, the team finally reaches the Ascension Portal. It is a grand, breathtaking sight, a towering contraption of gold leaf and polished glass that looks like a cross between a telescope and a cathedral organ. However, the years have not been kind to it. The glass is frosted with grime, and several of its primary levers are rusted shut. It sits in a massive stone chamber where the air feels lighter, as if the gravity of the upper world is pulling at them from above. This is the only bridge back to the sun, a beautiful but fragile piece of ancient technology that represents the final hope for every lost item in the cavernous depths below. The team decides that their first mission isn't just to save themselves, but to prove the portal still works for those who need it most. They select a small, cherished item from a nearby shelf, a child's worn-out red blanket that still smells faintly of lavender and sleep. With Percy's technical guidance, Reginald's strength, and Sylvie's nimble adjustments to the internal wiring, they begin the grueling process of activating the machine. The portal groans to life, emitting a warm, golden radiance that illuminates the entire chamber. With a final collective push, they feed the blanket into the shimmering light, watching as it dissolves into a flurry of sparkles and ascends toward the ceiling and the world above. As the blanket disappears, a magical brass screen built into the portal's base flickers to life, providing a brief, shimmering vision of the surface. They see a young boy crying in a park, his parents looking on helplessly, until, seemingly out of thin air, his beloved blanket flutters down onto a nearby bench. The boy's face transforms from grief to pure, radiant joy as he clutches the fabric to his chest. The sight hits the team like a physical wave of emotion. Even Reginald has to turn away to buff his handle, hiding a stray tear, while Sylvie bounces so high she nearly hits the ceiling. They realize that their struggle wasn't just about escape, it was about restoring the broken connections of the heart. As the portal prepares for its next cycle, Percy looks back at the sprawling, disorganized chaos of the repository. He looks at his ink-stained hands and then at his two strange, wonderful friends. He realizes that if he returns to his mundane office, he will just be another intern filing papers that no one reads. But here, in this magical underworld, his meticulous nature and love for order can actually change lives. He can be the architect of 1,000 reunions. With a deep breath and a quiet smile, Percy decides to stay. He chooses to forego his color-coded binders for a life of clockwork and magic, vowing to turn the repository into the most efficient and compassionate operation the world has never seen. The story concludes with a new trio standing at the helm of the repository, silhouetted against the glowing gears of the Ascension Portal. Percy has already begun drafting a massive glowing ledger to track every item, while Reginald has taken on the role of Chief of Security and Sylvie serves as the lead scout. They are no longer a group of lost souls, they are a seasoned team of heroes, bridging the gap between the world of discarded things and the owners who still miss them. As a new shipment of lost keys and forgotten letters tumbles down the chute, they share a knowing look and get to work. Their adventure is only just beginning, and for the first time, nothing in the repository feels truly lost.